The night was ablaze with red and blue lights, slashing across my century-old barn like a fevered artist's brush. It was a grotesque spectacle, a carnival for the cursed. Margaret, the iron-fisted president of the Willow Grove Estates Homeowners Association, was shrieking a guttural, vein-bulging wail that could have sent wolves fleeing across state lines. Her face, usually a fortress of smug control, was a wreckage of shock and fury. A deputy, Rookie Thompson, with his eternally baffled expression, tried to soothe her, while Sheriff Callahan leaned against his cruiser, arms folded, a faint grin betraying his amusement. In my hand, I gripped a single, pristine dollar bill, so crisp it could cut glass. That's right, standing in a showdown with a raging HOA tyrant, 2 deputies, and the county sheriff, all over one lousy buck. You're probably wondering how it came to this. Let me take you back 6 months, to the spark that lit this inferno, a rooster. Not a living one, but a 10-foot-tall, rusted masterpiece of scrap metal, won by my grandpa in a 1978 poker game. It stood guard at our property line, a glorious middle finger to good taste and a monument to our family's stubborn streak. For decades, that rooster was just there, unremarked upon, until Willow Grove Estates sprouted up. They raised 100 acres of ancient woods, erected 200 cookie-cutter beige boxes, and dubbed it a luxury community. With the houses came the rules, and with the rules came Margaret, the queen of petty despots, clutching her clipboard like it was the Constitution itself. My first run-in with her was on a muggy Tuesday. I was knee-deep in mud, fixing a fence post, when her gleaming white SUV rolled up. She stepped out in spotless lavender activewear, looking like she'd never broken a sweat in her life. "Excuse me," she said, her voice a syrupy blend of condescension and menace. "I'm Margaret, president of the Willow Grove HOA. Are you the owner of this land?" She gestured at my 300 acres of hills, fields, and forest land my family had tilled since my great-grandfather's land grant. I nodded, not bothering to clean my hands. "And you are?" she pressed, her eyes narrowing at my grimy boots. "The owner," I said, slow and deliberate. She flipped through her clipboard. "Right. I'm here to deliver your welcome packet and a list of violations to bring your property up to community standards." She said community standards like it was gospel, thrusting a thick binder at me. I stared at it. "I'm not in your community," I said. "My land ends at that stone wall. You're on county property. Your beige empire's over there." I pointed at the sea of identical houses. Her smile tightened, a hydraulic press crushing a peach. "That's a misconception," she said. "The developer's survey includes this road and a 20-foot aesthetic buffer. Your land falls under our jurisdictional overlay." Jurisdictional overlay sounded like a rash. I knew it was nonsense, but my cousin Laura, a lawyer, had advised me when the development began, let them screw up first. Document everything. So I took the binder. Then her eyes locked on my rooster. "That," she said, her voice icy, "violates Section 14, subsection B, regarding non-conforming statuary." My rooster wasn't on a lawn or in a garden, but I just nodded. "I'll look into it." That binder was a tyrant's fever dream, 200 pages dictating mailbox paint shades, Sahara beige or dune whisper, and grass height, for inches max. The first letter targeted the rooster. The second griped about my barn's unapproved red hue, unchanged since the 19th century. The third demanded I replace my cattle fence with white picket or wrought iron for 300 acres. I filed every letter, saved every email, and never replied. To Margaret, my silence was surrender, proof I was a dim-witted farmer cowed by her brilliance. She didn't know I read case law for fun or that my great-grandfather's 1912 survey map, filed with the feds, sat in a fireproof safe. She thought this was about statues and fences. She had no clue it was about the land her precious community squatted on. Her arrogance was her undoing. She believed her rules trumped all. She never imagined the land had older laws, etched in ink and iron, long predating her HOA. Fines started small, $50 for the rooster, $100 for the barn, then ballooned with fees she conjured up. I let them stack, building a paper trail of her lunacy. My neighbor, Old Man Carver, whose family rivaled mine in tenure, would watch her drive by. "That woman's tighter than a cheap fiddle," he'd say, spitting tobacco. "Thinks her clipboard's a crown." Power ain't paper, son. It's dirt. He was right, and Margaret was about to learn that lesson. When fines hit $10,000, she played her ace. A certified letter declaring my ranch a chronic nuisance and slapping a lien on it. If unpaid in 30 days, the HOA would foreclose and auction my land. It was a gloriously idiotic move. Laura laughed for 10 minutes when I read it to her. They can't do that, she said. An HOA can't foreclose on land outside their subdivision. The county would toss it out. I know, I said, eyeing my rooster glinting in the sun. But let's let her try. Laura paused. What's your play? She's building a trap for me, I said. I'm going to let her finish it, then help her lock herself inside. The escalation kicked off with a dronious sleek, realtor-grade model buzzing over my cattle. It was illegal, a blatant privacy violation, but I didn't complain. Margaret's game wasn't about laws, it was about audacity. She thought acting authoritative made her so. With her beige minions, it worked. They caved to her endless violation notices. But I had time, patience, and deeds. I photographed the drone, logged its GPS over my land, and sent the evidence to Laura, who filed it in her Willow Grove fiasco folder. The drone became a daily pest, hovering by my window, trailing my truck. Margaret thought she was collecting dirt on me. She was really documenting her own harassment. I started visiting Carver more, poring over old maps. See this, I'd say, tracing my great-grandfather's 1912 grant along the creek. Carver nodded. That city developer tried to buy my pa out 30 years ago. Pa said his survey was junk off by 50 yards due to a bad magnetic north reading. Threw his boundaries into your land. 50 yards was everything. The developer, a slick operator named Grayson, had used a shoddy survey, ignoring the federal plat. He built anyway, sold lots, formed the HOA, and vanished, leaving Margaret to rule a mirage. Did Grayson file a new plat? I asked. Carver cackled. Tried to. Judge Harlan told him to settle with your family first. He didn't. Just built. While Margaret fined my barn's hue, I dug through county records, pulling every deed since 1900. I hired the state's best surveyor to verify the 1912 boundaries with GPS. It cost a fortune, but it proved every inch of Willow Grove houses, roads, lawns was on my land. The HOA had no jurisdiction, they were trespassers. I kept this bombshell hidden, biding my time. The HOA held a hearing on my noncompliance in their soulless clubhouse. Margaret, in her element, presented a PowerPoint of drone Fujimi fence, barn, rooster ranting about aesthetic integrity. When she asked if I had a defense, I placed a recorder on the table. Please state your name and the boards, I said. Her confidence wavered. We're not recording, she snapped. State law says I can. I countered. You claim I'm under your jurisdiction, so I'm recording. Unless you admit you have no authority. Checkmate. Fuming, she complied. I then demanded the county plat map proving their jurisdiction. She couldn't produce it, blustering about master plans. Her board rubber-stamped the fines and foreclosure. I left with a recorded admission of their overreach. The auction notice was a masterpiece of hubris, buried in the newspaper's fine print. Margaret, cheap and hasty, hired a cut-rate auctioneer and forgot a reserve price, meaning the land would sell to the highest bid, however low. I withdrew $100 in crisp bills, keeping one in my wallet, 99 in my pocket. I called Laura. It's time. She had a lawsuit-ready: trespass, slander of title, harassment. The auction day was a crisp autumn Saturday. A small crowd of nosy Willow Grove residents gathered. Margaret, in a cream pantsuit, radiated victory, expecting my humiliation. I nodded to Sheriff Callahan, who smirked back. He'd endured Margaret's petty complaints for months. I registered, got paddle number 17, and waited. The auctioneer, Ronnie, stumbled through the property's description, hyping its development potential. He opened at $20,000. Silence. $10,000. Nothing. $5,000. Crickets. Margaret's smugness curdled. I'd warned local developers of a title dispute, ensuring no serious bids. Ronnie begged for $100. I raised my paddle. $1, I said. The crowd gasped. Margaret turned purple. That's not real, she screamed. Ronnie, a pro, shut her down. It's legal. No one countered. Sold, Ronnie shouted, slamming his notepad. I handed him the dollar. Margaret exploded, shrieking for the police. Callahan stepped forward. You called me, ma'am. He bid. He won. No reserve price. Her world crumbled. As the crowd dispersed, I stopped them. Sheriff, one more thing. I pulled out a survey map and the 1912 deed, spreading them on Callahan's cruiser. This survey shows Willow Grove is on my land. This deed proves it's been mine for a century. Their developer built on my property without title. Margaret scoffed, but the crowd paled. I tapped her house on the map. You're all trespassing. A process server appeared, handing Margaret a summons for trespass and eviction. He served every resident. Panic erupted, screams, tears, frantic calls. Margaret stood frozen, her clipboard on the ground, her power gone. The fallout was chaos. Residents, long bullied by Margaret, turned on her at an emergency meeting. She was ousted, humiliated. The developer, Grayson, faced lawsuits. I offered a deal, a $1 per year, 99-year lease per lot, but only if they dissolved the HOA. They voted unanimously to end it. Margaret sold her house at a loss and fled to a stricter HOA, personal hell. The neighborhood bloomed with color, free from her reign. I stood by my rooster, beer in hand, gazing at my land. The barn glowed red. The cattle grazed. For $1, I'd topple the tyrant. Where are you reading this? If you fought a petty dictator, you're my people.